Welcome back to War Stories, the channel where we pull the official reports from the files and get the real story from the real men who were there. We often talk about heroes. We talk about aces, about snipers, about the grizzled sergeants who led the charge. But war isn't just made of heroes. It's made of replacements. It's made of the new guy, the FNG, the kid pulled from a replacement depot and thrown into a veteran crew, a crew that doesn't know him, doesn't trust him, and wishes he was the man he replaced. It's a special kind of hell, to be surrounded by your brothers in arms, and to be completely, utterly alone. Tonight's story is about that kid. A young tanker, a new gunner and a Sherman crew fighting in the frozen, foggy hell of the Battle of the Bulge. He was a liability. He was a ghost in his own tank. His commander, a man he was desperate to impress, had given him one simple order: just stay out of the way. It was a command born of frustration, of grief, and of a total lack of faith. But in war, faith doesn't matter. What matters is who sees the enemy first, and the man who was told to be invisible, the man who was staring into the fog with nothing but raw, unfiltered terror. He was the only one who saw the monster waiting in the trees. This is his story. My sergeant told me to just stay out of the way. So I hit the tiger before he even saw it. Before we get into this incredible first-person account, I need you to secure the perimeter. First, if you believe that the stories of all soldiers, not just the famous ones, deserve to be remembered, then hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. It's the single best way to support what we do. Second, give this video a like. It tells the algorithm that this history matters. And finally, drop a comment below. Let us know what country and city you're watching from. It's a hell of a thing to see this community stretching all across the globe. Now. It's 0800 hours, December 19th, 1944, and the world is white, and it is cold. You can't know the cold. Not really. You think you can, but you can't. It's not like the cold back home, the kind that makes you button your coat. This is a cold that's alive. It's a physical thing that seeps out of the very steel of the tank, a 30-ton block of ice that you are trapped inside. It's December, we're somewhere south of St. Vith, and I am sitting in the gunner's seat of our M4 Sherman, the Lucky Lady II, and I am worse than cold. I am a ghost. I am a piece of useless equipment. My hands are so numb I can barely feel the traverse wheel. But it doesn't matter. I'm not really supposed to touch it anyway. My job, my only job, as given to me by my sergeant, is to just stay out of the way. The words echo in the cramped, freezing turret, louder than the squeal of the tracks, louder than the constant, tense crackle of the intercom. They are the only words Sergeant Davis has spoken directly to me all morning. He is my tank commander, Sergeant Davis. A hard, grizzled man from Tennessee who smells like stale tobacco and gun oil. He's a good TC, they say. A legend. But he hates me. He hates me with a quiet, burning, professional passion. He hates me because I am not Corporal Rico. Rico was my predecessor. Rico was Davis's best friend. Rico was the gunner who had been with this crew since Normandy. And 3 days ago, during the first chaotic German push, Rico had taken a direct hit from a PK-40. He'd been trying to get his hatch open, half his body out, when the shell hit the turret ring. I'm sitting in the seat that they scraped him out of. I can still see a dark, rust-colored stain on the bulkhead just to the left of my periscope, a spot the crew missed when they cleaned it out. Or maybe they left it there, a reminder, a warning. That was the incident. My first, and probably my last, taste of combat. We were the lead tank in a small column, probing a village. The PK-40 opened up from a ruined barn. The first shot was a ricochet, a sound like God himself hitting the tank with a sledgehammer. The inside of the turret was a snowstorm of white-hot spall and paint chips. I froze. I admit it. I froze. My mind went blank. I couldn't see the muzzle flash. I couldn't hear Davis screaming fire orders in my headset. My hands, which I had trained for this very moment for 6 months, were just two useless, trembling pieces of meat on the controls. Traverse left, Miller, goddammit, traverse. I just fumbled, swinging the turret wildly, a blind, panicked animal. I heard Davis scream, "Override," and felt the turret controls jump out of my hands as he took over, using his own commander's controls to aim and fire the gun for me. He fired. He got the kill. But the damage was done. We were hit again. The Lucky Lady was crippled, and another tank in our column was brewing up, the men inside screaming. My failure had been total. It had been witnessed, and it had confirmed everything they suspected. I was a coward, a useless replacement, a ghost. So this morning, as we mounted up in our new tank, the Lucky Lady 2, Davis had pulled me aside. His eyes were red-rimmed, not from the cold, but from a grief I couldn't understand. "Listen, Miller," he'd rasped, his voice low. "We're moving on a main supply route. The Krauts are throwing everything they have at us. I know you're scared. I don't give a damn. What I care about is that you didn't just replace my gunner. You replaced Rico. He could hit a dinner plate at 1,000 yards from a moving tank. You can't even find the goddamn barn." He spat a brown stream of tobacco juice onto the snow. "So today we're not playing games. You keep your eyes peeled. You keep your mouth shut. And if, God forbid, I give you a fire order, you follow it. But if you see anything, you don't call it. You let me call it. I'll find it before you do. Your only job is to point the gun where I tell you and to just stay out of the way. You get me?" I had just nodded. What else could I do? So now I sit. I am a passenger. I am the reason this tank, this crew, is vulnerable. I can feel it from all of them. From Frank, our driver, who is driving with such a tense, jerky precision, like he's trying to drive the tank away from my incompetence. From Kid, our loader, who is behind me, clinking shells, and I know he's thinking, why bother? Even if I load it, this new guy can't hit anything. Davis is up in his cupola, his head exposed to the elements, a man who would rather face a sniper's bullet than trust his life to my eyes. The fog is the real enemy today. It's thick, white, and suffocating. It's like we're driving through a bale of dirty cotton wool. Visibility is maybe 200 yards, tops. It's a knife fight in a dark room. And I just know, that there are monsters in this fog. Every tree is a Pak-40, every shadow is a column of Panzer Grenadiers, and every goddamn distant rumble is a tiger. The word is a curse. Tiger. The name of the thing that has haunted our every briefing, our every restless, freezing night. The 80mm gun that can punch through our Sherman's frontal armor from a mile away, while our own 75mm shells just, as the veterans say, bounce off like knocking on the door to tell him we're here. The tiger is the apex predator, and we are in a steel box made of prey meat, and it is in this fog. It's out there. I know it. Davis knows it. He's constantly on the intercom, his voice a low, nervous rasp. Scanning left. Tree line, 200. Nothing. Frank, keep your interval, damn it. Kid, stay off the radio. Miller, just be ready. Be ready. It's a joke. Be ready to do what? To freeze again? To get them all killed? The shame is so cold, so heavy. It's worse than the steel. It's a physical weight in my stomach. So I do the only thing I can. I stare. I don't just scan. I stare. I press my face to the M70 telescopic sight, my eyeball aching from the cold of the rubber cup. I have the 3x magnification on, and I am just staring into the white. I am not looking for anything. I am just looking. I am staring with the desperate, all-consuming, singular focus of a man who has nothing else. I have no reputation. I have no trust. I have no confidence. All I have is my fear and my eyes. And I will not be the one who freezes again. I am staring at the fog itself. I am watching the way the snowflakes swirl. I am looking at the texture of the white. Davis, he's a veteran. He's scanning. He's looking for the obvious threats. A muzzle flash. The dark shape of a tank in the trees. A man running. He's looking for the patterns he's been trained to see. But I'm just a terrified kid. I'm not looking for patterns. I'm just looking at the nothing. And it's in that nothing, that swirling, milky white void, that I see it, It's not a tank. It's not a gun. It's wrong. It's a patch of nothing. That's the only way I can describe it. The fog, you see, it's not a solid thing. It's a million tiny, swirling particles of ice and mist, and the wind, even a light breeze, pushes them around. The whole world in my gun sight is a swirling, hypnotic, gray dance, except for this one spot, straight ahead, just off to the right, at 1 o'clock. It's a patch of fog, maybe 10 feet wide, that isn't moving. It's a dead spot, a hole in the wind. The snowflakes in front of it are swirling. The snowflakes to the left of it are swirling. But this one vertical, rectangular-shaped patch of gray is as still and flat and dead as a photograph. My first thought is that I'm crazy, that the cold has finally frozen my optic or my eyeball, that I'm having a hallucination, a flashback to the terror of 3 days ago. I can hear Sergeant Davis's voice in my head, the thick Tennessee drawl dripping with scorn. What is it, Miller? You see a ghost? You gonna make us shoot a goddamn cloud? I can feel the laughter from the rest of the crew, the silent, shared judgment. The FNG is seeing things. The coward is cracking up. I blink, hard, the motion feeling slow and stiff. I pull my face away from the sight, the cold rubber cup peeling from my skin, leaving a stinging, numb ring around my eye. I look through the tiny, fogged-up periscope to the right. The world is just a white blur, useless. I put my eye back to the M70. It's still there, the dead spot, the vertical, unmoving rectangle of white. My heart, which had been a low, cold knot in my stomach, gives a single, painful thump. It's real. It's real. It's real. And if it's real, it means something is blocking the wind. Something massive, something close. Scanning left. Davis's voice crackles in my headset, making me jump. Tree line at 200. Nothing. Frank, edge us left, 5 degrees. Easy, easy. My blood turns to ice. Left. He's looking left. He's turning us left. And the thing, the nothing, is on the right. Frank, on the move. The driver's voice, tight and reedy, confirms. The tank lurches, the tracks squealing, and the world in my sight begins to pan. The dead spot is moving. Moving. Drifting toward the right edge of my sight. I'm losing it. I'm losing it. This is the moment. This is the exact carbon copy of the moment from 3 days ago. The moment where I froze. The moment where Rico died. The shame is a physical thing, a hot, acidic bile that rises in my throat. The fear of speaking is immense. The order was clear. You don't call it, you let me call it. To speak now is to declare that I, the coward, the FNG, the ghost, see something that Sergeant Davis, the legend, does not. It is the single greatest act of insubordination I can imagine. It is an accusation. It's me saying, you are failing, you are blind, I am better. And if I am wrong, if I call tank, and it's just a goddamn rock or a shadow or a cloud, my life is over. I won't just be the coward. I'll be the hysterical fool. They'll pull me from this crew so fast my feet won't touch the ground. I'll be chipping ice off truck tires at a rear echelon depot by nightfall. That, or my mistake, will draw a muzzle flash that will kill us all. But what if I'm right? What if I stay silent and 1 second from now, that dead spot turns into the 88mm muzzle flash of a tiger, and the world just ends? What if my silence, my obedience, is the thing that gets them all killed? The ghost of Corporal Rico is in this seat with me, and he's whispering, "Speak, kid, speak. Don't let him get you, too." The tank is still turning. The dead spot is almost at the edge. It's now or never. My mouth is dry, my tongue a piece of frozen wood. I can't yell. I can't even form a word. So I don't. My hands, which were numb and useless, are suddenly, painfully, alive. They feel like they're full of angry hornets, a million pins and needles of returning, terrified blood. I am not a voice. I am a gunner. And my hands are on the traverse. With a convulsive, jerky motion, I hit the hydraulic traverse pedal. The turret, which had been slave to Davis's cupola, lurches under my control. It's a high-pitched electric whine that fills the turret, a sound of mechanical protest. I am fighting my own commander. I am fighting my sergeant. I am swinging the turret right, back toward the dead spot, against the direction the hull is turning. "Miller, what the hell are you?" Davis's voice is a roar of pure, unadulterated rage in my helmet. He thinks I've panicked again. He thinks I'm losing it. "Override, I have the—" "No!" The word rips out of my throat, a sound so raw and unfamiliar I don't even recognize it. It's not a request. It is a scream. "Gunner's sight! 1 o'clock! Stop the tank!" It's a cascade of insubordination, a complete and total breakdown of crew discipline. I have seized control of the gun. I have screamed at my driver. I have countermanded my TC. In 1 second, I have committed every sin a tanker can commit. I hear Frank slam on the brakes. The tank shudders to a halt, the sudden stop throwing me hard against the gun sight, my eyeball mashing into the rubber cup. The whole crew is frozen, a collective stunned silence of what the FK. The only sound is the low rumbling idle of the engine and the high-pitched hiss of the radio static, which suddenly seems as loud as a waterfall. In that silence, I have the crosshairs. They are steady, and they are pointed directly at the dead spot. And the fog. The universe, in some small act of mercy, gives me a gift. A light breeze. Just for a second, just a whisper, pushes the thickest part of the mist aside, like a curtain being drawn. It's not a full reveal. It's a thinning. The dead spot is no longer just a gray, still patch. It's a shape. It's a massive, flat, vertical plane of dark, muddy, mottled yellow. It's a wall of steel, angled just slightly away from us. It's the side of a turret. A turret so big it doesn't even look real. It's a box. The brutal, flat-sided, terrifyingly efficient box of a Panzerkampfwagen 6. A Tiger. And it is close. Not 200 yards. Not 150. It's 80 yards. Maybe less. It's sitting there facing the other way, its massive 80mm gun pointing down the road, waiting for the rest of our column. It's an ambush. It's the perfect trap. And we have just, in our blind, noisy, idiot arrogance, driven right up next to it. And it has no idea we are here. It hasn't seen us. It hasn't heard us over its own idling engine. My crosshairs are resting perfectly, lovingly, on the center of that turret, right where the black and white cross is painted. "Kid." I hear Davis's voice, and it is not a roar. It is a whisper of pure, unholy terror. "Load. AP. Miller. My God. Miller." But I am already ahead of him. I am not the ghost anymore. I am not the FNG. I am the man in Rico's seat. "Loaded." The kid screams from behind me, already anticipating. My hands are not shaking. They are perfectly still. The crosshairs are locked. I am not thinking. I am not feeling. I am just doing. This is the shot. This is the one. The shame is gone. The fear is gone. There is only the target. "On the way!" I scream, and my foot stomps the firing pedal. The world dissolved. It didn't just get loud. It ceased to exist, replaced by a single deafening, bone-shattering crack that was more of a physical event than a sound. The 75-meter M3 cannon, just 2 feet in front of my face, exploded in a flash of brilliant, blinding orange-white light. The entire 30-ton Sherman rocked back on its haunches, a violent, brutal shove, as if a giant had kicked us in the chest. The cramped, frigid turret was instantly filled with a thick, acrid, choking cloud of burnt cordite. The smell was overwhelming, a chemical, sulfurous stench that burned my nostrils and lungs, a smell I would never ever forget. It was the smell of my own action, the smell of my defiance. A fraction of a second later, the hot, smoking brass shell casing was ejected from the breech, a flash of glittering gold in the dim, red-lit interior. It clanged loud as a church bell against the steel bulkhead and rattled to the floor, radiating a sudden, shocking warmth in our frozen world. But I wasn't watching that. My eye was still pressed hard into the rubber cup of the M70 sight. My brain, which had been a block of frozen, useless ice, was now a razor. It was processing information at a speed I didn't know I possessed. The recoil had thrown my sight picture into chaos. But I found it again in a split second, my hands already on the traverse and elevation wheels. Correcting, my foot already off the firing pedal, And I saw it. I saw my shot. It was a perfect, brilliant red line, the tracer from our AP shell, cutting through the last 80 yards of swirling fog. It looked slow. It looked like it was floating. It was a red finger of judgment, and it was flying true. It struck. Not with a bounce, not with the screaming, sparking whine of a ricochet. It struck with a solid, vicious, percussive flash of blue-white energy, a miniature lightning strike, right on the black cross. It was the most beautiful, most terrible thing I had ever seen. A cloud of sparks, of shattered paint and steel, erupted from the point of impact. And then the sound reached us, a heavy, resonant clang thump, a sound not of a bell being rung, but of a hammer breaking the bell. It was the sound of 90 millimeters of American steel, traveling at 2 feet per second, meeting 80 millimeters of German steel, and winning. "Hit!" I screamed, my voice a raw, broken shriek. "It's a hit! It's a penetration! Kid, reload!" Behind me, the kid was already a machine. He didn't need my order. He was a veteran. He had already grabbed another M61 AP shell from the ready rack. The second the breech had snapped open, he had shoved the new round home, his entire body lurching with the motion. "Loaded!" he roared, his voice cracking with a mix of terror and adrenaline. He slapped my back, hard, a signal that the gun was hot. The whole exchange, from my shot to the reload, had taken maybe 4 seconds. But in those 4 seconds, the world had changed. "He's turning!" Sergeant Davis's voice was a panicked thunder in my helmet. "My God, Miller, he's turning on us. He's not dead. Frank, reverse. Reverse, damn it. Get us out of the—" I looked through the sight. Davis was right. The Tiger, the 57-ton monster I had just punched a hole in, was not dead. It was wounded. It was furious. It shuddered. A massive, deathly convulsion. And then, the turret, the huge, square, terrifying turret, began to move. It was slow, a hydraulic, grinding, inexorable movement. It was the movement of a dying predator, its muscles still obeying the last, hateful instinct to kill. It was turning towards us. The long, obscene 80 dB cannon with its double baffle muzzle brake was swinging around. The black, hollow, 8-inch wide eye of the cannon was coming. 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 To look at me. This was the moment. This was the race. A Tiger's turret traverse was slow, but our reload was fast, and 80 yards is not a distance. It is a room. It is a fistfight. I didn't wait for an order. I didn't wait for Davis to override me. I didn't wait for Frank to start moving. I had the shot. The crew inside that Tiger, they were screaming. They were dying. The gunner was probably dead, slumped over his controls. The commander, someone, was using the emergency traverse, or maybe the main one was just slow. But it was still moving. It was still a threat. The black, smoking hole my first shot had made was still in my crosshairs. I didn't adjust. I didn't refine. I just put the fine black lines of the reticle right back on the wound I had created. "On the way!" I screamed again, a wordless animal roar of sheer, primal terror and rage. And I stomped the pedal. Crack. The world exploded again. The same flash, the same roar, the same violent, rocking kick. The same acrid smell of cordite filled the turret, thicker this time, burning my eyes, making them water. I blinked away the tears, my eyes still glued to the sight. I saw the second red line. It was perfect. It flew across the tiny gap and disappeared, like a magic trick, directly into the smoking black hole of the first impact. For a half second, nothing happened. The Tiger just sat there, its gun still turning. It was at 11 o'clock, almost on us. My heart stopped. I missed. It's over. We're dead. I started to scream, and then the Tiger detonated. It wasn't a small fire. It was a catastrophic, internal, secondary explosion. A massive, brilliant orange and white whoomp erupted from the inside. A jet of pure white flame shot out of the hole I had made like a dragon's breath, 1,000 feet into the sky. The main commander's hatch, A 150-pound disc of solid steel was blown straight up, climbing, end over end, before disappearing into the fog. The great 80mm cannon, which had been seconds from ending us, instantly went limp. The hydraulic pressure vanished. The breech must have been destroyed. The barrel, heavy and dead, dipped, its nose plunging into the snow-covered road, a final, defeated bow. The tank was no longer a tank. It was a furnace. It was a funeral pyre. A huge, thick column of greasy, black, oily smoke began to pour from every hatch, every viewport, every rip and tear in its armor. The sound was no longer the grind of an engine, but the roaring, all-consuming whoosh of a fire feeding on 57 tons of steel, fuel, and ammunition. We sat there, the Lucky Lady 2 idled, its engine a low, trembling rumble that I could feel in my teeth. No one spoke. No one moved. The only sound in my helmet was the hiss of the static and the sound of my own blood, a high-pitched, frantic shh in my ears. I was breathing in short, shallow, hitching gasps, my lungs still full of the cordite smoke. My whole body was shaking, a violent, uncontrollable, bone-rattling tremor that I couldn't stop. I looked down at my hands on the traverse wheel. They were white, my knuckles like knobs of bone, gripping the steel so hard they had lost all feeling. I tried to unclench them. I couldn't. My God. It was Frank, the driver. His voice was a reedy, thin whisper, a sound of pure, unadulterated awe. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. Loaded. The kid's voice behind me. It was shaky, but it was automatic. It was the voice of a pro, his body still doing the job his brain hadn't caught up to. He had loaded another AP round. He was ready. Jesus Christ. Sergeant Davis's voice. It wasn't the voice of a legend. It wasn't the voice of my hard-ass commander. It was the voice of a man from Tennessee who had just been pulled from a grave. He was choked. He was crying. I could hear the wet, ragged sobs in his microphone. He. Miller. I couldn't speak. I just sat there, my eye still at the sight, staring at the inferno I had created. I watched, numb as a figure, a black, writhing shape, crawled out of the commander's hatch. The man was completely on fire. He was a human torch. He stood up on the back deck of the burning Tiger, screaming a sound I can still hear, a thin, high-pitched animal wail that cut through the fog. He flailed his arms, then fell, tumbling off the back of the tank into a snowdrift, which hissed and steamed where he landed. He just lay there, a smoldering black thing. Target. Destroyed. I finally managed to say. My voice was a dry, broken croak. I had killed them. I had killed them all. The shame, the fear, the ghost of Rico. It was all gone. But it wasn't replaced with pride. It wasn't replaced with glory. It was replaced with this vast, empty, vibrating sickness. I had killed them. Frank. Davis's voice came again, harder this time, the sergeant coming back. Back us up. Slow. Get us into that ditch on the left now. Kid, load he. High explosive. Watch the tree line. That bastard might not be alone. He paused. I waited for it. I waited for the good job, Miller. I waited for the holy shit, kid. I waited for the absolution. It didn't come. What came was better. It was the sound of his intercom switching just to my channel. A private click. Miller. Yes, Sergeant, I whispered. Watch your sector. Watch your sector. The words were simple. They were flat. They were the most beautiful, glorious, and perfect words I had ever heard in my entire life. They were not, good job, kid. They were not, holy hell, you saved us. They were not the words of a man patting a terrified replacement on the head. They were the words of a tank commander. They were the words he would have said to Corporal Rico. They were words that meant the battle wasn't over. They were words that meant I was not done. They were words that meant he trusted me. He trusted me to keep watching, to keep my nerve, to be his gunner. My hands were still locked, like two arthritic claws, onto the traverse wheel. I had to consciously, painfully, force my fingers to unlock one by one. The tremor, the violent, full-body shaking was still there, but it was a secondary thing now, an aftershock. The engine was the earthquake, and the engine was me, and I was back in control. "Sector," I whispered, my voice a dry, rasping thing, my throat still raw from the cordite and the screaming. "Yes, Sergeant." Watching my sector. I tore my eye from the gun sight. For a second the world was a red, pulsing blur. The image of the reticle burned into my retina. I looked at the dark, rust-colored stain on the bulkhead, the ghost of Rico. It was just a stain. It wasn't a warning anymore. It was just a fact, a thing that had happened. I put my eye back to the M70, and in that second, I was a new man, born in the flash of an 88-round explosion. Frank was already moving us, the Lucky Lady 2 lurching backward with a groan of its transmission, the track slipping and biting in the snow. We were sliding into a shallow ditch by the side of the road, the hull tilting, giving us a slightly better lower-profile position. It was a good professional move. We were still horribly exposed, but at least we weren't sitting in the middle of the road like a 30-ton target. "He loaded!" Kid's voice, sharp and clear in my headset. He didn't sound like a kid anymore. He sounded like a goddamn professional. I heard the solid metallic thunk as he racked the AP shell I'd just used and secured the high explosive round. He was ready. He was anticipating. He was supporting me. The burning Tiger was no longer in my sight picture. Frank's reverse and turn had put it off to our left at about 9 o'clock. I could still hear it, though. Even over our own idling engine, I could hear it. It was a hellish, roaring, crackling sound, like a forest fire trapped inside a steel box. And it was punctuated by new sounds. A series of sharp, rapid pop, 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 pop sounds, like a string of firecrackers. "That's his 30 cal, Davis's voice calm now. "All business. His Coke's ammo is cooking off. Keep your heads down. Miller, back to 1 o'clock. Scan right to 3 o'clock. Frank, you got us? You stable?" "Stable, Sarge," Frank replied. His voice was different. It wasn't the reedy, nervous whine of a man driving a coward. It was the low, steady voice of a man who knew his gunner had his back. The jerky, panicked movements were gone. He was part of the machine again. I swung the turret, the hydraulics whining, my hands no longer numb. They were alive, every nerve ending tingling. The fog. It was still there. It hadn't burned away. It hadn't retreated. It was still a thick, suffocating white wall, but it looked different to me now. It was no longer a curtain hiding one single terrifying monster. Now it was a nest. I knew, with a chilling absolute certainty, that the tiger had not been alone. A tiger king never hunted alone. It had a pack. It was the alpha, and somewhere in that white-walled hell its brothers were waiting. Paquet 40s, Panzerfees, Stugs. Maybe another tiger. The fear came flooding back, but it was a different fear. It wasn't the paralytic, shameful fear of failure. It was a sharp, clean, high-voltage predator's fear. It was the fear that made me lean in, that made my eyes sharpen, that made my breath catch in my chest, not in a sob, but in a state of pure animal readiness. My job wasn't over. I hadn't won. I had just, as they say, pissed off the hornet's nest. My life, and the lives of my crew, were now in 10 times more danger than they had been 3 minutes ago, because now they knew we were here. My God, they knew. That burning tiger was a 500-foot-tall smoke and flame signal that said, "Here we are. Come and kill us." I stared into the white, my hands tight on the controls, my body rigid. Every shadow was a tank. Every tree was a gun. The pop, pop, pop of the cooking-off ammo was a machine gun firing at us. I flinched. "Easy, Miller." Davis's voice, low, calm, steady. "That's just the fire. Keep your head. Just scan. What do you see?" What do you see? He was asking me. He wasn't telling me. He was relying on me. This was the test, not the shot. The shot was just adrenaline. This was the test. Could I hold it together? After? Could I be a gunner for the next 5 minutes? The next 5 hours? I took a breath, the cordite still thick in my lungs. Scanning right, I said, my voice trying to be as level as his. 1 o'clock, tree line, I see. Nothing, just trees, too thick, visibility. Maybe 90 yards now. Good, he said. Keep it there. Frank, kill the engine. Let's go quiet. Let's listen. Killing engine, Frank said. The low, familiar vibrating rumble of the right radial engine died, and the silence that rushed in was deafening. It was a cold, pure, snow-filled silence. And it was full of sounds. The roar of the burning tiger was the loudest. The crackle, the pops, the deep groaning sound of tortured, warping steel, the hiss of snow melting as white-hot shrapnel fell from the sky, and then another sound, a new sound, from deep in the fog, off to our right, from the sector I was watching. A low, rumbling, rhythmic squeak and clank. Squeak, clank, squeak, clank. It was the sound of a steel track. An engine, a heavy one. Contact, I whispered, my voice a dry click in the mic. Right. 2 o'clock. I hear it. I can't see it. It's in the fog. It's moving, I think. Sergeant, I hear tracks. I hear 'em, Davis said, his voice hard as iron. Frank, start the goddamn engine. The starter groaned, a terrible high-pitched, grinding whine that seemed to last for 1,000 years. It felt like we were setting off a siren, announcing our exact, precise location to the entire German army. Come on, you bastards, start! The engine caught, roaring to life, the entire tank shuddering. Miller, Davis barked. Load. Kid, AP. Get AP in the gun. Wait, I screamed. I already have he. Kid, hold the he. Miller, what the hell are you? It's not a tank, Sergeant, I yelled, my eyes still glued to the sight, my ears straining. The sound. It's squeaky. It's light. It's not a tiger. It's a half-track or a something. But it's not heavy. The sound was getting closer, but it was paralleling us, moving behind the screen of trees. Kid, he, now, Davis countermanded. Sergeant, I pleaded. The AP is in. He loaded AP. It was the last order. I had felt the kid load it, my brain just now catching up. He'd loaded AP for the next tiger. Damn it, Davis cursed. Okay, AP it is. Miller, you got a target? No. I was frantic, my hands flying over the traverse wheel, sweeping the tree line. Just the sound, it's moving, it's... Wait. And there it was. A flicker, a motion, a dark gray shape moving fast through a gap in the trees. It was a shape, not a dead spot, a half-track, a Hanomag, and it was full of men, a whole squad of Panzer Grenadiers, their bucket helmets visible even at this distance. They hadn't seen us. They were racing toward the sound of the burning tiger, to see what had happened, to support their tank. They were racing into a trap. My trap. Target, half-track, 2 o'clock, moving, range, 100. I didn't wait. The AP was the wrong round. It was designed to punch through a tiger's armor. It would go straight through a half-track like it was paper, probably without even exploding. It was a waste. It was the wrong tool for the job, and it was the only one I had. Fire! Davis screamed, but I was already firing. Crack! The tank bucked. The cordite cloud filled my world. I saw the red line of the tracer. It was perfect. It hit the half-track dead center in the driver's compartment. The effect was devastating. The AP shell didn't just go through. The sheer, raw kinetic energy of the impact vaporized the front of the vehicle. The entire half-track seemed to explode, not from its own ammo, but from the pure, physics-defying violence of the hit. It cartwheeled, flipping end over end, a burning, mangled wreck, throwing its cargo of burning men into the snow-covered trees like discarded flaming dolls. I saw it all, clear as day, in the 3x magnification of my sight. The recoil, the impact, the fire, the men. He! I screamed, my voice raw. He! Load he! There's more! Loading! Kid yelled, his voice a battle cry. The AP casing clanged to the floor, joining the other one. Frank, move us. Get us hull down. Miller, watch for dismounts. Davis was a machine, his orders sharp, clear, perfect. He wasn't the man who had grieved Rico. He was the man who was leading us. He was trusting me. He was trusting my eyes, my calls. The shame was gone. The cold was gone. The fear was gone. There was only the sector, and my gun, and my crew. And the radio, the one for the whole platoon, suddenly burst into life, a frantic, screaming voice from the outside world. "Lucky Lady, this is Blue 3. We hear you. We hear the firing. What is your sitrep? What is happening? We are moving to support. Over." The line was silent for a half-second. I had my eye to the site, scanning the burning wreckage of the half-track, looking for the survivors, the ones who had been thrown clear. "He loaded," Kid yelled. "Got him, Miller. Watch him burn." I saw them. 3 of them, running, diving for cover in the trees. "Targets! Infantry! 2 o'clock! Traversing!" I thumbed the button for the Coke's machine gun, but before I could fire, Davis hit the platoon radio. His voice cut through the static, and it was not the voice of a legend. It was the voice of God. It was cold, it was hard, it was terrifying, and it was proud. "Blue 3, this is Lucky Lady. Be advised. We have engaged and destroyed 1 Tiger. Repeat. 1 Tiger, 1 half-track, Key A. We are taking fire from dismounts. We are holding this position. Proceed with caution. Out." He'd said it. He'd said, "we." My hand was shaking, not from the full-body tremor of adrenaline, but from the simple human exhaustion of the last 5 minutes. I fumbled the pack of Lucky Strikes, my cold, numb fingers like clumsy wooden sticks. I finally managed to pull one free and handed it, filters first, up to Sergeant Davis. He took it, his own gloved hand steady, and stuck it in the corner of his mouth. He didn't light it. He just held it there. He was looking at me, his eyes dark and unreadable in the dim, smoky red light of the turret, just evaluating. He wasn't looking at a hero. He wasn't looking at a savior. He was looking at a piece of his equipment, a piece that had been broken, that had malfunctioned, and that had just, against all odds, started working. He was recalculating. He was reevaluating his tank, his crew, his chances of living through the next hour. The trust I had just won wasn't a prize. It was a burden. It was a new, crushing weight of expectation. I hadn't just proven I could do it. I had proven I must do it. Again, and again, and again. The ghost of Corporal Rico wasn't gone. He had just stepped aside, to make room for my ghost, if I failed. "AP loaded." Kid's voice, a sharp, clean bark from behind me, shattering the moment. He was a professional. He was already on the next step. "Radio check, Lucky Lady," Davis said, his voice instantly all business, turning away from me and speaking into the platoon mic. "All blue call signs form on me. We're punching through. We stick to the route. Blue 2, you're on my right flank. Blue 3, take my rear, 100 yards. We go through. This. God help anything else that gets in the road. Frank, get us moving. Miller, eyes on. You are the tip of the goddamn spear, son. You see a snowflake, move funny, you call it." "Yes, Sergeant," I said. My voice was stronger. Tip of the spear. The man who had been told to stay out of the way was now leading the entire platoon. Frank gunned the engine, and the Lucky Lady 2 roared, climbing out of the ditch with a heavy metallic groan. We swung back onto the road, the entire tank shuddering as it passed through the wash of intense, searing heat from the burning Tiger. For a split second, my periscope was filled with the image of our kill. It was horrible. It was no longer a tank. It was a massive, skeletal, blackened thing, the steel plates on its side warped and melted, the paint gone, the 80mm gun buried in the snow like a fallen cross. The fire was roaring out of the turret ring, a blast furnace of yellow-orange flame. It smelled of burning diesel, burning rubber, and something else, something sweet and sick that my brain refused to name. I had done that. My hands, my eyes, me. I had turned 5 men who were alive and breathing just minutes ago, into that. I felt a cold, sudden sickness rise in my throat, a wave of nausea so powerful it made me dizzy. This was the victory. This was the good kill. It wasn't a cheer. It was a tomb. Miller. Eyes. Front. Davis's voice was a slap in the face. It broke the spell. You look at your kills later. You look for the next one now. I snapped my head back, my eye jamming into the M70 sight. He was right. Mourning was a luxury. Pride was a luxury. There was only the sector. There was only the fog. We pushed forward past the mangled, burning wreck of the half-track, past the smoking, dark shapes in the snow that I refused to identify as men. We were a column again. 3 Shermans, a small steel island of American power in a sea of hostile white. We were moving faster now, trying to get out of the kill zone we had just created. But the fog was still our prison. Blue 2, I got nothing on the right. The radio crackled. Just trees. Blue 3, rear is clear. Came the next report. Lucky lady, you're clear from behind. Roger, Davis grunted. Miller, talk to me. I was sweeping. My hands were no longer on the grips like a passenger. I was the turret. My hands were the traverse wheels. My eye was the gun sight. I was a part of the machine. I was sweeping. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 12 o'clock. My brain filtering the data. Swirling fog. Good. Still fog. Bad. Trees. Good. Straight lines. Bad. Straight lines. My blood, which had just started to settle, turned back to ice. It was subtle. It was almost nothing. But I had just seen the tiger. I knew what wrong looked like. This wasn't a dead spot. This was a line. A perfectly straight, horizontal line, barely visible through the mist, about 400 yards out. At 11 o'clock. It was too straight to be a snowdrift. It was too low to be a building. It was the top of a gun shield. It was the precise, geometric, man-made shape of a PK-40 anti-tank gun. The exact gun that had killed Rico. The gun that had been waiting for us. The gun the tiger had been protecting. The gun that was now, certainly frantically, traversing its long, thin barrel to find me. This time I didn't scream. I didn't panic. The fear was there, a cold, sharp, brilliant thing. But the shame was gone. There was only the problem and the solution. My voice, when it came out, was not a shriek. It was a command. It was the voice of a man in Rico's seat. Gunner! Target! Gun! 11 o'clock! 400! I didn't wait for Davis. I didn't wait for the kid. The HE round from the infantry engagement was still in the breech. It was the perfect round. My hands were already adjusting the elevation, my foot already on the pedal. Even as I was speaking, the tank was still moving, rolling forward, a terrible platform. Frank, stop! I roared, the same instant Davis roared it. The tank slammed to a halt, dipping its nose, throwing my sight picture down. I cursed, hauling the elevation wheel back up, my crosshairs finding the line again. I saw the flash, a tiny yellow-orange pinprick of light from the center of that straight line. They'd fired. Incoming! Someone screamed in the platoon net. A fraction of a second later, there was a deafening crack and a flash of light. Off to our right. It was a miss. A wild, panicked shot from the German crew, their aim thrown off by our sudden stop or by the sheer, terrifying audacity of us advancing on them. They had missed their one best shot. They would not get another. On the way! I yelled, my crosshairs steady, my foot slamming the pedal. Crack. The tank bucked, the turret filled with smoke. I saw the red tracer of the HE round arc. A beautiful, high, looping curve. It looked slow, lazy, like a thrown ball. It flew, and it disappeared right behind the straight line. A half-second pause, and then a perfect, glorious, beautiful explosion. A whoomp of orange, black, and white as the snow-covered camouflage netting and the gun itself were vaporized. The explosion was wide, low to the ground. A direct hit. The gun was gone. The crew was gone. The threat was gone. I took a breath. My first. The turret was silent. The only sound was the low, steady rumble of our engine. The kid behind me just laughed, a short, sharp barking sound of pure, unadulterated relief. I unclenched my hands. Reload, I said, my voice hoarse. AP. Loading AP, the kid replied, his voice singing. On the platoon net, Blue 2's commander just said, Jesus Christ. Lady, that's 2. You're cleaning house. Davis didn't reply to him. He clicked his mic, the private channel to me. I waited for it, the praise, the good job, the I was wrong about you. I waited, and I waited. The mic clicked. Miller. Yes, Sergeant, I said. You're pulling your shots a little to the left. Lead a moving target more. I blinked. That was it. No, thank you. No, you saved us. Just a correction. A technical, professional, gunnery correction. And I felt a smile, a real one, the first one in months, spread across my face. It was better than a medal. It was better than a parade. It was the single greatest thing he could have possibly said. It meant he was watching me. It meant he was coaching me. It meant he believed I was going to be here long enough to need the correction. I wasn't the Ghost. I wasn't the FNG. I wasn't Rico. I was Miller. And I was his goddamn gunner. Yes, Sergeant, I said, my voice steady, my eye going back to the sight, my hands back on the controls. AP is up. I'm on it. Watch my sector.